Hi, and welcome to the 64 Doors. Today we're going to open door 59. Here we find the Playmate, and this is an archetype that is all about creativity, intimacy, and sexuality. Today we're going to explore the Playmate from a human design perspective and a Jinky perspective. Right now, we have the Sun in Virgo in gate 59. We have the Earth in Pisces in gate 55. And the design part of the cross is the 20 in Gemini and the 34 in Sagittarius. In human design, we call this cross the cross of incarnation. So when you are born with the Sun in the 59, you are going to be born in one of three crosses. When we look at the time that we spend in each gate, you can see here that we started on the 22nd of the month in the 59, and it goes through 6 days or 5.7 days that we're going to be inside of this transit. So when you are born during this transit, you can have three different crosses. The first one is the cross of the sleeping phoenix, the second one is the cross of strategy, and the third one is the cross of spirit. You can also see, since we are dealing with an 88-degree angle, when we speak about crosses and we have a wheel, usually the cross is going to be 90 degrees, right? But in this case, in human design, we have an 88-degree angle. So we can see that the design part of the cross, the red part, is going to be different in the three crosses. And in the first one, this is the collective cross that we're going into in 2027, where we have this manifesting generator channel, the 20 in the throat center and the 34 in the sacral center, that has to do with being absorbed in your own activity, being absorbed in the now. And in the other two crosses, we have the 16 and the 9 that have to do with talent, with versatility, with enthusiasm in the 16, and then the 9 that can focus on the details and kind of take it step by step. So there are different flavors in these three crosses. And we also know that the right angle crosses have to do with a personal destiny. And kind of not needing anybody else in particular in order to really move into that purpose. And when it comes to the left angle crosses, then it's more about those karmic relationships that really there are people that we're coming back to interact with, and where we are fulfilling our purpose through those relationships. So going back to the body graph, we see that the 59 comes from the sacral center and it points toward the emotional center and the 6. So this channel in the circuitry book is called the channel of mating, and it's a design that is focused on reproduction. And this is actually one of the gates where I feel the most kind of difference when I look at it in a pure human design way, and when I look at it in a jinky way. And I believe that it is because the 59 is mutating. And when Ra channeled it, it was really where it was at that point, 1987 and the coming years after that. And this is one of the gates or jinkies that Richard Rudd has recorded 3 different audios on, because the way that he feels about it is also that evolution. And when we speak again about the 2027, about humanity coming in a new era, a new phase, we know that the main mutation that is happening is in the emotional center. So going back here, so when we have this channel, the 659, it is about the mutation that is happening in the way that we are relating to each other. So here it says, in the reference theme, you have a very powerful auric field that penetrates people very deeply. This means that you can be intimate with almost anyone very quickly. Although this is natural for you, it's not for others. So you need to be aware of how easily you can be misunderstood. This is kind of the classical way that we're seeing the 59. And I also I also feel like it is true, because I have friends that have the 59, and I can feel that in them. There is this attractiveness in the 59, and there is this just this kind of warm feeling that you want to be close to them, because it comes from the sacral center and this life force, and it's kind of shared towards the emotions, right? And then looking at just the 59 here, we see people who are driven by their genes to reproduce, whether that be children or creative endeavors. And I think this is the important things. It's not always children. It's not always only through sex. The new way of being creative through this sacral energy can also be birthing other things. So that's kind of how it's unfolding, and including more. And of course, we are always going to have that part of the sexuality, the intimacy, that is like the foundation of this gate. And you can see here, I mean, these are kind of funny. Fun and funny. So in the lines, we always have this the hexagram structure with the 6 lines, right? So the first line here would be the preemptive strike. The second one is shyness. The third line is openness. The fourth line is brotherhood or sisterhood. The fifth line is the femme fatale or the Casanova. And the 6th line is the one-night stand. And you can also kind of go down to the basic things about the line and be like, yeah, the first line is kind of empowered. The second line is all about the ease and the dance of it. So there are different roles of sexuality, you could say, that we find in this gate, and that are there that we can see around us too, that we can see in our partners. Oh, this was playing out with this person. And so it shines light on the different ways that we can break the aura with another person and come together. And it says there's no really one right way. Of course, the 6th line is going to kind of think it's superior, but all the lines in one way have their agenda, have their reasons. So I would say this is a gate that is super interesting to really tap into, and to explore what are your ways of coming closer to another person. Even if you don't have the 59, we all have, in our DNA, we have this imprinting. If we go to some of the keywords for this hexagram, so I think this is really beautiful. The eternal spirals of Kundalini. So now we're more going into kind of the gene key way of seeing it, that this sexual energy is really all about this life force, the kind of serpent energy or dragon energy that we're all having. You can say it comes from our womb, it comes from our hara, it comes from our root center. That is this alive spiral, the 2 snakes, or that is coming up through us. That is the life force that is also used when we are procreating, when we are creating life from ourselves. And another word that is key to this archetype is penetration, because it comes there and breaks the aura. And like you were seeing in the beginning here of the explanation of the channel, it's easy for the 59 to kind of just go in and to kind of be driven by that sacral energy. But the other gate that is meeting it, the 6, it's really much more sensitive of what it lets in or doesn't let in. So the 59 is kind of an aura breaker, or it knocks on the other person's aura and say, like, would you allow me in? And then intimacy. So we're going to speak more about the intimacy part of it when we go into the gene keys. And the internal motivator of this archetype of the playmate, it is to merge fully with the other. It wants to do that. It wants to feel no separation. That's what it's here to do. And through that electric orgasmic energy of Kundalini, it's like when we feel actually one with everything. If you have had a Kundalini experience, you know that you feel like you're vibrating with everything there is. So that's the 59 in a way that is not only sexual in the ways that humans are used to. And then the Achilles heel is that it can't help but seducing. It's similar to the 39 in that sense. 39 cannot help but provoking, and here it can't help but seducing. And really, in the biology, we have the ovaries and the testes here. So it is really connected to our sexuality. There's no other way to speak about the 59. And let us go into the gene keys now. So when we do the gene keys, we speak about all the hexagrams, all the gene keys as a frequency band where we can live out that activation, that gene key in a very low, more fear-based kind of egotistical frequency. And that's maybe when the 59 goes and say, this is how I want to penetrate you. And it's like, that's the only way. That would be kind of a, a me energy. And then the higher frequencies are openness and love. So that's an inclusive energy. So we, serving the whole energy, where it not only sees itself, but it sees the whole, and it serves the whole. So in the 59, the lowest frequency here that we see is dishonesty. And it can come out as, being very intrusive, or it can actually even exclude itself from life because it doesn't want to play. It's too scary to even play when you are in that frequency. And then the higher frequencies here are intimacy and transparency. And there we can really see that when we open up and when we let go of that fear, the way that we merge with the other, the way that we can tap into that person's aura, it creates intimacy. And at the highest frequency, it's really about transparency. And that's part of also the misunderstanding I feel with many human beings, that many things can be okay. Like the way that we want to live out our sexuality, it's like, it's a journey, and there's no right or wrong way as long as there's transparency. Because when we start to hide, when we start to contract, when we start to do it in a way that isn't transparent, that's when we can hurt others and hurt ourselves. But when we put everything, when we can be transparent, when we can be honest, when we can be not only transparent in the way that we think about transparency of like telling the truth. Transparency is even something that I can feel part of the cells. I want to be for me to merge with another person, I feel their cell frequency. And if there is a lot of residue, if there's a lot of like clogged energy, in the way I feel it, I don't want to merge with that. I want the cells to be vibrant. I want the cells to have like the membrane functioning so that the toxins are let out and the nutrients are let in, not to be contracted again, to be in that open energy where love flows in and out. And we also see, we come back to the wheel we were looking at in the beginning, and we see that part of the cross, the first part of the cross we're looking at, the 55 and the 59, that's what we call the programming partner in the gene keys. So, and they are, the way that the hexagram is built is just the complete opposite. Everywhere we have a filled line in the 59, we're going to have an open or broken line in the 55. So they're mirror opposites. And that's why they are kind of programming each other. So when we look at the lowest frequency, dishonesty and victimization go together. And then intimacy, transparency also go with freedom. So there is a new way probably to live relationships, that where I often feel like part of what I incarnated in this lifetime is to really feel on a tactile level how freedom and romantic love go together. And that's, I feel like there is really a key to that in the 59 and the 55 together. And if we go into the I Ching, here we have wind over water, and it is the whispering wind guides one to dive into the depth of love without fear. Super beautiful. Intentional communication. And you can also see, so the way that it's built, so clarity in intuition and ease, that's the wind aspect, and then the water aspect is devotion, commitment, half-heartedness. So you could see this is wind over water, and these are the three frequencies: shadow, gift, and city. Astrology, now we have moved in completely into Virgo. If you remember last week, we were in a hexagram that was, half of it was on the cusp. So half of it was still in Leo and half of it was already into Virgo. Now we are completely into Virgo. So here we have really the ceremonial aspect and being centered and at the same time being mutable, this mutable earth. It's an interesting It's actually, for me, it's an interesting element. My sun sign is fixed Earth in Taurus. So here we have, it's a different aspect of Earth. So here it says Virgo is the leaf, always reaching for the light of spirit and doing the inner work that feeds the tree. And I just realized that I have a lot of people in my life that are Virgo. And I never grew up, nobody in my family has it. But for example, Ashley, I work with, has it. And two other people that I'm collaborating with, also in my closer relationship, there are a couple of Virgos. So there's just something interesting for me where I'm learning about all these people born in September, and you know what it means, and service the spirit through devotion to sacred work. I mean, of course, if this is how you're serving the world, let's become a team, whether it is professionally or intimately. I can sign up for that. Integral human design. So now when we look at integral human design, it's the same thing as the circuitry book. So here it was called the channel of mating. And in the integral human design, it's called the channel of fruitfulness. And I like that because it takes away what we're saying in the beginning. It's not just about sex. It's about creative endeavors. It's about creating in the world. And we don't have to create children. We don't even have to mate. We can actually use our own orgasmic energy and create with that. I also like that the channels have a frequency band. So it's not only the individual gates that have a frequency band, it's also when the gates come together into channel. So here we have defense at the lowest frequency, we have conflict in the 6 as the lower frequency, and then we have dishonesty. So of course, conflict and dishonesty, it's a kind of defensive, you know, it's kind of when we take that role of, you know, that attitude of defensiveness. But then in the higher frequencies, we have the intimacy of the 59, and we have the diplomacy of the 6, and then it's fruitfulness. Then it's really, something can start to happen. We can start to mirror each other. We can start to dance together. And in the really highest frequency, and this is what we're seeing in the keywords, you know, that longing to merge. So in the highest frequency, it is that fusion. The 6 is not setting up any barriers anymore. It's not afraid of letting the 59 in, and the 59 feels completely received, and that's when the fusion can happen. I remember writing something last year about the feminine and the masculine, and that doesn't have to be female, and that doesn't have to be, you know, women and men. It can also just be, it's the feminine and the masculine, and how if the feminine, it's like there's something very deep with the wounding where the feminine, even if she receives 99%, it's not 100%. And the masculine that is penetrating can feel that. So even if he's received at 99%, it's not 100%. And I feel like this is a deep wound in us to not be fully received, or not feeling safe enough, or not feeling open enough to receive fully. And just 1% there is enough for this core wound to perpetuate. A little bit like we were saying with the 29 we were in last week about commitment, that less than 100% commitment is not commitment. So there is something here about really, again, about wholeheartedness, and to be able to kind of take down that guard. And somehow also knowing that that guard might be a discernment that we are not supposed to merge. And then when you find the right geometry with the other, then it can be that total receiving, that total coming home, that letting go of the separateness, which is kind of funny too, because we're going into the 40, which is what we call the homecoming. It's the first seal, and it's that deepest collective core wound, we could say, where we go into the bones, to the bone marrow, and where we also let go of the separateness, and we start to trust divine will, we start to trust life. So that's where we're going in the next transit. When we come to the dream arc, you are, I would say, go into Jane Addams' blog. I think it's called Gene Keys Diary. It's on the 64 doors. In every door, we do bring her images in, but also to have the text and everything, go to the blog. She also paints the mudra. which I think I'm not signed in. So you could also look at the mudra in that one. And I'm wondering if there's anything. I think we went through everything, but really the dragon, this is the dragon energy that is in all of us, and to start to invite it in and to see what happens when that's what moves you through life. And I also wanted to go through some of the questions, and you have most of those questions, you are going to have them inside the door. So you can, some of you kind of just want to have them and think about them and feel into them. And some of you might even want to like write them down. And especially if you have the 59 or the 6, for example, in your profile, you might want to dive deeper into this one. So the first question, have you had an experience of Kundalini? Do you know what it is? Do you know what it feels like? And knowing that maybe you've had it through doing Kundalini yoga, or maybe you were born just feeling this current in your spine all the time, or maybe you're holding back and you're afraid to feeling it. I know my mom, she was doing transcendental meditation in the 60s, and she had a kind of an unexpected Kundalini experience, which has kind of been there for her a lot, and being afraid to kind of go, she more had like, it almost felt like an out of body experience, where when I'm speaking about Kundalini, it's really how can we have an embodied experience of it, so that it's actually nurturing this physical vessel and not kind of shooting, so that we feel like we are less embodied. So this is something to maybe, even if you don't know about it, to kind of start to know about it, because it's in all of us. It's not that some people have Kundalini and some people don't. We all have it. This is what we're made up of. And then start also inquiring and looking at your intimate relationships. And there are so many questions there. It can be about your sexual appetite. Do you feel like you have more sexual appetite than your partner? Is it maybe because we say that the 6 kind of doesn't want to let the 59 in completely? Is there something in that relationship that is bothering you, so that you are not letting the other in, for example, because you feel that? So maybe you have an appetite, but there's something in you, in your body, your emotions, that says, no, I can't let you in. But it's not actually about the appetite. It's about something else that lays there. Maybe this is a week to actually come out and be able to speak about that. I think also it's a week to think about the freedom, because we know the 55 and the 59, they are programming partners, and the 55 is about freedom. So maybe you are living in a relationship dynamic that is like that. There is the way it is because that's kind of what you agreed upon, or it might not even have been said. And I have a lot of friends who are looking into open relating, or who are maybe taking a break. There are so many ways of living in relationships, and maybe you've just fallen into a dynamic or a pattern because that was how you were happy to have it the first 10 years of your marriage. And maybe now there is something how it can change, or just maybe the way that you relate to each other, just maybe the way that you are making love to each other. So maybe there can be I know I signed up for a workshop a couple of months ago, and there was nothing new in the workshop, but actually just kind of being in that energy for a couple of days, it just opened up a lot in my intimacy. So there are these things also with like we are evolving in all areas of our lives. Also, even if we're happy with our sexuality, there's always more. There's always more to open, always more to explore. And also, yeah, so that's the thing. Look at that. Do you have enough freedom? Are you able to give your partner as much freedom as you would have? And here we don't only speak about freedom like independence. We also speak about the freedom of spirit. And that can sometimes be the thing if we have this dynamic with the 59 and the 6. When one person doesn't feel free in their spirit or understood in their spirit, that can make them actually close down physically to the other. So there's so many layers here to explore. And I feel like the last question is about transparency, and I already touched upon it. Like transparency for me, it's not only about honesty. If it's a city, it's more than that. So I would, if I were you, I would really tap into the word transparency and what does it mean for you. I also believe that there is still the possibility for everybody to go into, I think it's called the 64 words of love or something. And it's what Richard did with all the cities. And I think it's like a 4-part program. I believe that it's free still. I'll see if I can link it. And that's really diving into just the city of all of them. And he speaks about them in a certain, I don't think it's a codon ring, but there's a certain geometry to it. So he's going to speak about the different cities as clusters together. So to have that inquiry about transparency. And for me, like I said, for me, it's kind of the transparency of the cells too. And there's transparency sometimes when I retain water. I'm like, there's something I'm holding on to. There's something I'm not transparent about. There's something that my body is showing me. So to start to like widen the perspective of transparency and what it means and how you can include more transparency in your life. Because it's so easy sometimes to not even think about it. So this is a good week to actually start to invite it in and see the connection between freedom and transparency. Like when we invite more transparency in, like that actually opens up something else. So thank you for being with me, and I will be back next transit with the 40.